Celebrities are like men. I've told you all for years. Men don't joke. They tell you the truth and then laugh to take your temperature. Celebrities do that with satire. They put out the most outrageous stuff for attention, and then when they get called out because it didn't land right, they say, oh, it was satirical. Satire is supposed to be subversive. It mocks the power structure. This reinforces the power structure, and it's about as deep as a puddle. But the choice girlies are trying to make this into their holy grail. I've heard everything from this is a rejection of regressive conservative ideology to it's some kind of post feminist moment, or that old standby. Maybe she just wants to be dominated. Maybe she just likes this and she's doing it for herself. If people ever say something means a bunch of different things, it's usually because it means nothing. Work that actually has a meaning makes that meaning plain. People are trying to graft all these deeper subtexts onto this lazy attention grab of a photo, and it's got nothing to do with women being repressed or anti-sex nowadays. Even if the intent was just to make a splash with a sexy photo, this doesn't do it nearly as well as some of the pop divas 30 years ago. I had to censor this one so I don't get in trouble, but everybody knows what's behind the black. This is a photo of Janet that was on the cover of Rolling Stone in 1993 with her breast being held by her then husband. Later, she cropped the photo and made it the cover of her self-titled album, Janet, which is full of explicit sexually charged songs. Beyonce did something similar with her own eponymous album, though she ultimately decided she didn't want to be featured on the cover physically at all. But the musical message is very much the same. It's sex positive, very charged, with songs like Surfboard and Drunken Love. Both of these women went in a sex positive and subversive direction by flipping the script. They centered their own pleasure and they shed the roles that they had played before. Both women had been child stars, with Janet Jackson being on Good Times in the role of Penny and being one of the youngest members of the famous Jackson family. Beyonce had been in the public eye as far back as Star Search and spent her teenage years performing worldwide with Destiny's Child. And both of these women were expected to perform the role of the sexy yet virginal pop star, with Janet Jackson in her earlier album singing songs like the innocent Let's Wait a While, and Beyonce pushing respectability politics with songs like the accusatory, slut-shaming Nasty Girl with Destiny's Child. On their eponymous albums, Janet and Beyonce respectively are rejecting the power structure in a myriad of ways. First, by centering their identity by using their names, rejecting the former labels that they had to contend with, and then centering their own pleasures, because the men that they either mention in their albums or use in their covers are faceless. They are the center. The men are there to serve them. Women dominating in the bedroom 30 years ago in 1993, or even 15 years ago in 2013 with Beyonce's Beyonce album, disrupted the status quo. It was unexpected. It was different. Not to mention Black women choosing to sexualize themselves when we have been negatively stereotyped, which is why so many of them did play into the virginal pop star image. But Janet with a controlled image, and Beyonce with no image at all, but choosing to make people listen to her words and hear her as she was at the time, shedding the label of a child and saying, I'm stepping into womanhood and redefining myself. That is subversive. We had all those elements 30 and 15 years ago, and now with all this musical history behind you, this is what you give us? It's self-indulgent, fatuous, indolent, and ridiculous. She ain't no diva. Honestly, Sabrina Carpenter is no Madonna or even Lady Gaga. If you're gonna be an iconoclast, be one. But this lukewarm shit was not edgy, satirical, or even particularly interesting. What did she do here that vintage ads with the same intent didn't do better? So Carpenter's album cover probably drew inspiration from ads like these. These vintage ads juxtaposed the subjugation of women with the social context of feminism and sexualized the former, implying what women really want is to be dominated. It's sexy to put them in their place. They really played upon the idea of a contentious, antagonistic relationship between men and women being caused by feminism, and all that was needed to solve the problem was for women to get back in their place. Check out this ad. Want him to be more of a man? You try being more of a woman. And simultaneously, they co-opt the language of feminism while blaming it for all the problems. Being more of a man used to mean bulging 16-inch biceps or driving faster than anybody else. Today it means being strong enough to be gentle. Being more of a woman used to mean acting hard to get. Today it means not acting at all. It co-opts a little progressive language, but it still insists that you get into your gender role. And fun fact, I don't know what this is an ad for. What is this? Is this nail polish? Is it perfume? What is this? Because it's not about the product. It's about the idea they're selling you of your place in society. That's what everything you consume is doing. Every single thing you consume is about an identity you want to inhabit. What's the first thing you do when you set out to change your life? You buy some equipment. You want to get into shape, you buy a gym membership. You buy a walking pad for your house. You buy new gym clothes. You might buy a food scale. You want to be a boss. You want to advance at work. People start telling you, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. You better go out and get some new accoutrements. Even something that's antithetical to more consumption, like decluttering. What's the first thing a lot of people who want to declutter do? Go out and buy a book about decluttering. They're going to go out and grab a magazine that has an article on Marie Kondo. Because we've been taught by our capitalistic society, if you have the thing, you consume the thing, you now are the thing. And that's why people will have a house full of things with the tag still on them from all the identities they tried to consume. They got a Thigh Master in the 90s, a Bowflex in the early 2000s, some Tybo tapes after that, and they aren't one bit closer to being in shape because they just keep consuming the thing instead of doing the thing. And just like you cannot consume your way into genuine change and a new identity, you cannot perform your way into equality. Some women are trying to justify this cover by saying Sabrina's just flipping the script on puritanical modern-day feminism. Women are free to do whatever they want. Despite the fantasy being sold by books like 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight, there's actually nothing empowering about submitting to a man. It's the same wolf, but instead of sheep's clothing, he has a nice sheepskin rug for you to lay down and pose sexy on, but he's still going to devour you. And the thing about 50 Shades of Grey and Twilight is women don't want the sex pictured. They want the lifestyle. They're still looking for the secret sauce to live happily ever after, and they believe, oh, if I give him what he needs, then eventually he's going to meet my needs. They have a fantasy that once they submit, they are going to be loved unconditionally. The man is going to say, wow, I treated you really badly in the beginning, but you just kept trusting the process, and now I love you more than anyone I've ever known. I'm going to take care of all your needs. I'll never look at anybody else. That's the real fantasy. Where to start? Men are not going to magically change. If he starts out treating you badly, he's going to continue to treat you badly. Worse, the more you take it. Next, there's nothing empowering about handing the reins of your life over to a man. Finally, women have to stop with these if-then scenarios. Well, maybe if I submit to him, then he'll give me what I need. That is a fantasy. That's a lie you're being sold. If a man is going to treat you well, he's going to do it from the beginning. Most men aren't because they're never going to. I can't believe women are still falling for that old, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today ass scam. It should be self-evident by now that men that hold out the carrot of good treatment, promising that one day eventually you'll get it after you've performed and jumped through hoops, are bad people. But let's say that they were being genuine. Let's say that they were going to really one day give you good treatment after you perform to their satisfaction. They're just abusive, aren't they? Because they're intentionally mistreating you to get you to behave in a certain way. That's textbook abuse. I know no one who follows me would ever be silly enough to say, it's not that deep. But for anybody who's just wandering through, what you think about, you bring about. Why the devil is a grown woman pretending to be a child crawling on the floor? In so much of the artwork surrounding her music, she's invoking lolicon and Lolita imagery. Take her 2024 photo shoot. The bottom is a shot of Sabrina giving homage to a famous moment from the 1997 Lolita. The top is the Lolita movie. The bottom is her. Here she is on tour in a baby doll nightie. And there's absolutely nothing satirical about this or disruptive to the system. Sabrina purposefully panders to the lowest common denominator. There are more PDF files in the world than ever before. And a truly astonishing amount of child abuse material, formerly known as child porn, is being consumed all the time. That's the only context to this photograph. She's trying to pander to that. Here's a clue. If men like your quote-unquote activism, you're doing something wrong. She's just somebody else trying to play two sides against the middle to capitalize on this moment. She throws around a few progressive-sounding phrases, like on man-child, to pander to women and pretend to be a girl's girl. while meanwhile catering to the male gaze, feeding into both the subjugation of women and the sexualization of children. A mess. Be careful what you consume. That's it. Like and follow for more.